As you already know, the UK left the EU political structures and the European Parliament on January 31st in 2020, so no UK MEPs there anymore. And the Brexiteers blame the government now for not implementing Brexit properly, and others want the UK to join the EU again. But the EU, of course, moved forward after Brexit, and so in the next weeks I will make a test here on the channel by bringing news about the EU in one of my daily videos. That's supposed to keep people informed what the UK has left in the end and what people want to return to make informed decisions and give it a more fact-based approach. And since my magazine channel is reserved for information on the development of the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine for the time being, that is another reason to do this right here. But I anyway believe exactly my audience on this channel needs this kind of information. And of course, there is a new playlist EU here, so look out for it. But now let's talk about today's topic. The European Chips Act entered into force. It puts in place a comprehensive set of measures to ensure the EU's security of supply, resilience, and technological leadership in semiconductor technologies and also applications. Semiconductors are the essential building blocks of digital and digitized products. From smartphones and cars through critical applications and infrastructure for healthcare, energy, defense, communications, and industrial automation, semiconductors are central to the modern digital economy. They are also at the center of strong geostrategic interests and the global technological race. Concretely, the European Chips Act will strengthen manufacturing activities in the Union, stimulate the European design ecosystem, and support scale-up and innovation across the whole value chain. Through the European Chips Act, the European Union aims to reach its target to double its current global market share to 20% in 2030. And the European Chips Act consists of three main pillars. The first pillar is the Chips for Europe initiative, reinforces Europe's technological leadership by facilitating the transfer of knowledge from the lab to the fab, bridging the gap between research and innovation and industrial activities, and by promoting the industrialization of innovative technologies by European businesses. The Chips for Europe initiative will be primarily implemented by the Chips Joint Undertaking. The initiative will be supported by 3.3 billion euros of EU funds, which is expected to be matched by funds from member states. Concretely, this investment will support activities such as the setting up of advanced pilot production lines to accelerate innovation and technology development, the development of a cloud-based design platform, the establishment of competence centers, the development of quantum chips, as well as the creation of a chips fund to facilitate access to debt financing and equity. The second pillar of the European Chips Act incentivizes public and private investments in manufacturing facilities for chip makers and their suppliers. The second pillar creates a framework to ensure security of supply by attracting investments and enhancing production capacities in semiconductor manufacturing. To this end, it sets out a framework for integrated production facilities and open EU foundries that are first of a kind in the Union and contribute to the security of supply and to a resilient ecosystem in the Union interest. The Commission has already indicated at the time of the Chips Act proposal that state aid may be granted to first-of-a-kind facilities in accordance with the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union. And in its third pillar, the European Chips Act has established a coordination mechanism between the member states and the Commission for strengthening collaboration with and across member states, monitoring the supply of semiconductors, estimating demand, anticipating shortages, and, if necessary, triggering the activation of a crisis stage. As a first step, a semiconductor alert system has been set up on April 18th. It allows any stakeholder to report semiconductor supply chain disruptions. Also, the regulation on the Chips Joint Undertaking enters into force, allowing the start of the implementation of the main part of the Chips for Europe initiative. Furthermore, the CHIPS Fund will start its activities as well. With the entry into force of the CHIPS Act, the work of the newly established European Semiconductor Board will also formally start, which will be the key platform for coordination between the Commission, Member States and stakeholders. Under the second pillar, industry will be able to apply for planned first-of-a-kind facilities to obtain the status of integrated production facility or open EU foundry. This status will allow these facilities to be established and operable within the Union, thus allowing for a streamlined approach to administrative applications and permit grants. This status will also require that these facilities comply with criteria to ensure their contribution to the EU's objectives and their reliability as suppliers of chips in times of crisis. A common European strategy for the semiconductor sector was first announced by Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in her 2021 State of the Union speech. In February 22, together with the European Chips Act, the Commission published a targeted stakeholder survey in order to gather detailed information on chip and wafer demand to better understand how the shortage of chips was affecting European industry. In February 22, the Commission proposed the European Chips Act. In April 23, a political agreement was reached between the European Parliament and the EU member states on the Chips Act. The measures adopted will help Europe to reach its 2030 digital decade targets, fostering a greener, more inclusive and digital Europe. And if you want to know more about different topics, the next video is right here on the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.